Obagu, have you finished washing my pants?
Not yet, my wife.
Don't forget to sweep the compound.
If you ever visit the village of Ogidinpa, the old people will tell you this story. They'll start by pointing at a small clay pot beside the river and say, that pot belonged to the man who thought he could beat thunder, but ended up washing his wife's clothes by the stream. Everyone laughs when they hear that, but there's silence afterward, because it's a story of pride, pain, and one woman who turned darkness into light. Long ago, there lived a man called Obagu, meaning the lion's strength. But in truth, his heart was harder than stone and colder than rainwater in Hamatan. Obagu was tall and broad like a tree trunk, his chest puffed out like a rooster at sunrise. He believed men were born to command and women were born to obey. Whenever he walked through the market, people moved out of his way. He would shout at traders for lowering their prices too slow. He would boast to his friends, "A real man's voice must make a woman tremble." The men laughed, the women looked away, and the children whispered, "That's the man who made his first wife cry." His first wife was Ebele, a beautiful woman with calm eyes and gentle hands. Before marriage, her laughter could fill the market like music. After marriage, it became a whisper lost in the wind. Ebele was patient, humble, and hard-working. She made fine clay pots, smooth as eggshells. But Obagu never saw her value. He shouted if her food was not ready. He kicked her pot if the stew had too much salt. He slapped her if she dared to speak while he was talking. Each time, she cried quietly so the neighbors wouldn't hear. But they heard. Everyone did, and no one helped. People said it's a family matter. A woman must endure. She married him, she must bear it. 7 years passed like that. 7 years of quiet bruises and broken pots. Until one night, after another cruel beating, Ebele lay on her mat, staring at the ceiling. She whispered, "Maybe peace only lives in the other world." And before the sun rose, her breath was gone. The herbalist said her spirit gave up. Her heart refused to beat for pain anymore.
Before we dive into this emotional and powerful story, please kindly support us by liking this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so that more people who are also interested can watch and learn from it. Your support means a lot.
Thank you very much for your support.
The village buried her beside the river, and for 3 nights, even the frogs were silent. 3 moons later, Obagu returned to the same market. He said he needed a quiet, humble wife again, one who would never argue. He found Nkiru. Nkiru was young, small, and bright-eyed. When men were around, she looked down at her feet and smiled shyly. Obagu watched her and thought, "Perfect, she will never talk back." He sent elders with palm wine and gifts, and she agreed to marry him. But what no one knew was this. Nkiru had heard everything about Ebele. She knew how Ebele had died, how the village had stayed silent, and how Obagu still walked proudly. She made a secret promise to herself, "If he is fire, I will become lightning." At first, everything looked peaceful. Nkiru cooked, cleaned, and knelt when serving food. When Obagu barked orders, she smiled sweetly. When he called her lazy, she bowed her head and said, "Forgive me, my husband." The villagers whispered, "Ah, Obagu has found peace at last." But peace was not what Nkiru brought. She was studying him, watching, waiting, learning his weakness. She learned he loved to boast, that he feared shame, and that his pride was bigger than his muscles. And so she decided, I will fight him not with strength, but with his own pride. One morning, Nkiru deliberately left his breakfast late. Obagu shouted, "Woman, why are you still sleeping? The sun is up." Nkiru looked up calmly and said, "Ah, my husband, I was dreaming of how your greatness shines brighter than the sun. I woke up late just to let the sun catch up with you." Obagu laughed, proud. He said, "You know me well." The next day, Nkiru salted his soup too much. When he complained, she bowed and said, "Your tongue is too strong, my husband. Even the soup trembles before you." He laughed again. But each time she praised him, she added a small sting, one that ate his peace slowly. Then one fateful morning, Obagu's pride exploded. It was a Tuesday. Obagu woke up hungry, expecting breakfast. He found Nkiru sitting on the bed, reading a small book. He stared, confused. "Are you blind? Can't you see the sun is high? Where is my food?" Nkiru looked up calmly and said, "I decided not to cook today. I wanted to see what would happen if the rooster didn't crow." Obagu's eyes widened. "You dare speak to me like that? I will show you." He raised his hand, but before he could land the slap, Nkiru moved. She grabbed his wrist, twisted it sharply, and with surprising strength, pushed him backward. The great Obagu, the lion, the rooster, the village bully, fell flat on his back with a heavy thud. He struggled to get up, but she pinned him down with one knee and said softly, "If you try that again, you will lose more than your pride." He froze. Then she leaned close and whispered, "I know everything about Ebele. I know what you did, and I know the people who saw. If you ever touch me, I will shout your story to the world." From that day, everything changed. Nkiru made new rules. Obagu would cook. He would sweep. He would wash clothes. He would fetch water. He would even fan her to sleep at night. He tried to protest once, but Nkiru smiled and said, "Do you want me to visit the elders tomorrow?" That shut him up. Soon, the villagers began to talk. They saw Obagu at the stream, carrying a heavy water pot on his head. They saw him pounding yam at dusk, his wrapper tied high. Children followed him singing, "Rooster fetches water, firefly shines bright. Who rules the house now? The one with the light." Obagu hated it. But every time he tried to rebel, Nkiru would remind him of Ebele, and his heart would shrink like burnt yam. Months passed, and little by little, Obagu began to soften. He started to see things he never noticed before. The tired faces of women at the stream, the laughter of children when their mothers rested, the strength it took to stay gentle in a hard world. One day, he told Nkiru quietly, "You have changed me." She smiled. "No, my husband, I only turned the mirror toward you. You changed yourself." He began to help others too. When a neighbor shouted at his wife, Obagu walked over and said, "Don't do that. It leads nowhere good." At first, people laughed, but soon they started listening. In time, Obagu built a pottery hut in Ebele's memory. He trained young men to mold clay, saying, "If your hands can shape a pot with care, they should never hurt a woman." Nkiru became a respected trader, kind but firm. They lived in peace. At night, They would sit under the moonlight, fireflies glowing all around. Obagu would say, "You are the firefly who taught the rooster to bend." And she would laugh softly. "No, my husband, I only showed you how to see in the dark." Moral of the story: true strength is not in shouting or hitting. True strength is kindness that never gives up, courage that speaks when silence becomes death. Even the smallest firefly can humble a roaring rooster, because pride will always fall before light.